Welcome to Strange Weekly News. In this show, we'll take a look into the news and headlines to pick out curious reports of the strange, the weird, and the mysterious. Anything from UFO news to science advancements, the paranormal, and stuff labeled fringe science and fringe phenomena. Each news item we go over in the show, I will place all the links to them in the description box below once this live show is over, as well as chapters on the timeline index. Hello and welcome to all of my first-time viewers and listeners and everyone watching this live. Please show your support by liking this video that you are watching right here, right now. Subscribe and also hit the notification bell as we do 3 live shows right here on this channel every single week, covering topics on UFOs, the paranormal, and things that are unexpected. Also on this channel, I do post YouTube shorts, keeping you up to date on the latest strange news. There's some really interesting stuff to cover this week, so I'm going to share my screen here and we're going to get straight into it. Why? Because AARO is very deeply in the news. When I say in the news, I mean UFO news. Now, actually, in the mainstream media, not so much, but you do definitely want to listen to this. Because number one is on October 31st, Halloween Day, the best holiday ever, right? The Pentagon unveiled a reporting form for providing information about UFOs. Okay, back it up. All right. First of all, the AARO website launched in early September. I have been checking consistently on the website when that aspect of people being able to report their UFO sightings would be open because they had launched the website and saying, oh, this aspect will be coming soon. And I mentioned this verbally, a multiple accounts stating that's a joke. How can you have this AARO website really specifically collecting that needs to start collecting UFO reports and then say that aspect will be coming soon? We had no idea when it was going to be released, and they did it very sneakily. They did it what I would classify as a holiday. I know it was on a Tuesday. People still had to go to work, but for the majority of people, it's classified as a holiday, and nobody was expecting for them to come forward and say, all right, now it's open. I didn't see that coming. Did you? It shocked a lot of us, and I did make a YouTube short on it because it's something that I think appalled a lot of people. But moreover, it is only open to those individuals with direct knowledge of alleged U.S. government programs concerning UAP, according to a Defense Department news release. And I'm going to actually share this next image here of a screenshot of the website. And here it says, submit a U.S. government UAP related program / activity report. When you click on it, you get to this page right here. And if I just zoom in right here, okay, you need to click, I am a former or current U.S. government employee, service member, or contractor personnel. I have firsthand knowledge of a U.S. government program / activity related to UAP. So you cannot file a report if you do not click both of those boxes. I can't imagine, I really can, the amount of people that did fill it out anyway and kind of hoping for the best, because AARO had mentioned that depending on the reports that they receive and if they're enticing enough, they will do a follow-up interview with certain whistleblowers. Remember that, because we're going to revise that in just a little bit. But Sean Kirkpatrick, the director of the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, says, we want to hear from you. And he mentioned that in a release. All information shared through this platform will be kept secure, although classified information should not be disclosed on the initial form. Those who provide information may be contacted by officials from AARO for a follow-up interview. And this move by the Pentagon reflects a interest and an unprecedented level of transparency regarding UAP in recent years. Now, that little sentence is directly from a handful of articles. This one is coming from Anomalalian. Yes, that one. But you can ask yourself, is this really being transparent here? Because they are asking people from the government or who once you worked for the government to come forward. It's not open to everyone. And in your opinion, is that displaying transparency? For some newcomers in understanding and wanting to know more about UFOs and the UFO history, I'm going to give you just a very brief background on why this is important and why people and why the government is kind of showing a little bit more interest in this. Because in 2020, the Defense Department released 3 videos, one from 2004 and two from 2015, showing unidentified aerial phenomenon. And these videos, recorded by Navy pilots, depict unclear objects moving at high speeds through the sky. Then in July, Congress conducted a public hearing during which former military officials provided testimony based on their alleged firsthand encounters with UAP. And one of these officials, a former Navy commander, recounted observing a small white tic-tac shaped object during a flight over the ocean in 2004 known as the Nimitz encounter. And that one is probably one of the most famous modern cases of today. And so that's just one of many reasons to why the government is coming forward more so than in previous years on information showing interest. And AARO is now has this reporting center finally open to the public. But here's the big question for you, and please take a moment to digest it, to think about it, and to share your thoughts in the live chat and in the comments as well, because your feedback, your opinions are very valuable to me. And that question is, how does limiting UFO reporting to government insiders affect public trust in UAP transparency? Please answer that question, because it's a very valid one. And I think that many people will have opposing views, but it might seem as if many might come to a general consensus of thinking one specific thing. But I'd like to hear your thoughts, those that are watching this live. If you are listening to this on a podcast platform, the YouTube link is in the description box below. We do 3 live shows right here on this channel, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can provide your feedback and your input on a lot of the questions that we're going to be asking today. Jessica says, we shouldn't trust the government at all. Cindy says, okay, why are they screening people out? David says, public trust? LOL. Hyde says, well, those government folks would know, wouldn't they? And Robert, you still made it. Thanks for stopping by. That's so awesome. Goes in, nothing comes out. Verpine says, info goes in and nothing comes out. Peace of Mind says, with the restrictions, will anyone make a report to AARO? Okay, Peace, bringing up a really great point, because there is so much more to the news when it comes to AARO. Why is that? Because this information is also new. And if it will let me change my, okay, it won't let me change the next screen. That's okay. I will just do it again. But while we're on the conversation of AARO, I want to show an image of Sean Kirkpatrick. Why is he relevant? Well, first of all, he is the chief. Okay, he is el hombre that's taking care of AARO. But there's more information, because people are not happy with his service. They are not happy with the work that he's doing, so much so that by the end of the year, he is resigning his position. Okay, listen to this, because AARO is undergoing a significant change in leadership. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the current chief of AARO, is slated to be replaced by the end of the year amid serious allegations from whistleblowers. These whistleblowers have accused Dr. Kirkpatrick of lying to the public and ignoring the accounts of witnesses who have had encounters or observed UFOs. That is a huge statement. And for that to be so prevalent and to be so heavy, so much so for Kirkpatrick to state that he is going to resign his position, goes to show, and this is so important to mention, this goes to show how much power the people have. And yet we forget sometimes, but when we are filing those complaints, voicing our opinions, it makes changes such as these. So the whistleblowers' concern have been brought to light by an attorney who represents some of the individuals with inside knowledge of UAP encounters. We can potentially assume here that Grush is involved in that equation. According to this attorney, there is a sense of distrust towards Dr. Kirkpatrick among these knowledgeable sources, particularly those who have had hands on experience with equipment related to UFOs. The attorney's clients are reportedly hesitant to bring their information to AARO under Dr. Kirkpatrick's leadership. So, back it up. Again, if you're riding a horse, pull those reins all the way back until that horse starts walking backwards. Because if there is a change in leadership, is the public, you and I, are we actually going to see a difference in how AARO is going to handle UAP reports? Or is it just changing hands just to look good, but we're not going to see anything different? A lot of people have claimed that AARO is just another Project Blue Book, that Kirkpatrick is just another Hynek. Okay, we've heard this for, I would say, maybe like a month or two now, maybe a little bit longer, but there's a lot of patterns here. Just because someone else is going to take this position, is it going to make a difference? Are we going to see change? These are the big questions that we have to ask. And reflecting that on you, do you think we are going to see change? We don't know who is going to take this position yet. However, the DoD has kind of hinted at least to the Daily Mail, that they have found someone to already fill this position for 2024. So the Pentagon's UFO chief will resign by the end of the year amid a wave of complaints accusing him of making false statements about UFO whistleblowers and fostering an atmosphere of distrust. Again, these are very immense, extraordinary statements that it doesn't look good, not only for Kirkpatrick, but also doesn't look good for AARO, and it doesn't look good for the Pentagon. This is not benefiting anybody, but hopefully it'll benefit the public, because more and more people are getting an interest in UFOs, wanting to see serious coverage, wanting to see military officials come forward and share their accounts and their knowledge. And so, with a change of hands, will it influence people to come forward at a more rapid pace than previously when Kirkpatrick was the chief of AARO? What do you think about this? Annie brings up an interesting point here from the live chat, and she says, another Hynek. Hynek told the truth in the end. Yes, he did in many respects, but during the time that he was under the Pentagon's thumb, under the Air Force thumb, working for the Project Blue Book, he was saying the things that he had to say. It wasn't until years and years later did he start coming forward and feeling guilty about the things that he said in the past and started sharing the truth. Could that be the same for Kirkpatrick? Well, at this point in time, the government is paying him, giving him his paycheck. He's not going to say anything against them. Who would? The majority of people need to pay their bills, need to put food on the table. They're going to do what they have to do to get the job done. But maybe, interesting that you bring this up, Annie, maybe once he leaves his position, will he start leaking information? That'd be beneficial. That'd be hopeful, right? It'd be a little optimistic. But I don't see that coming, at least for a handful of years, if at all. Some knucklehead says Kirkpatrick is getting promoted. Promoted where is the question. Consciously says Kirkpatrick is no Hynek. Who knows? He could turn a new leaf, maybe. Or maybe he's always like this and always will be. People are unpredictable. They're also irrational in general. And time will tell. That's very cliche, I understand. But in this case, only time will tell if Kirkpatrick will come forward and say and provide any interesting information for the years to come. Joe, we're live. This is as live as it gets. But here, the Pentagon appears to have already made the decision on Kirkpatrick's unnamed successor, according to one former Pentagon official with past involvement in related to UFO investigation programs. And this person spoke to the Daily Mail. That information has not been made public, but that is enough for people to make speculations. And given their public affairs track record, they may not put out anything to the press until well after the change, but who knows, they might surprise us. This sounds a little bit familiar, doesn't it? It kind of sounds like the NASA media briefing where they said we are not going to give the new name of the head of the UFO research group. We're not going to tell you. People were freaking out about this. And then just a few hours after that briefing, they mentioned, okay, it's a meteorologist. This is his name. That's his background. And then you can do the rest on your own. Could that be the same case here? There was a lot of scrutiny during that time frame. I think the Pentagon saw what happened to NASA and said, okay, this is a very good example. We should not follow in their footsteps. We're not going to say anything at all until we feel confident and ready. NASA, on the other hand, they were pushed to the very edge of the cliff by the public, to be blunt here, and they gave in. They caved in and they said, fine, 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 we'll tell you, which again, it shows that the people have more power than we imagined. But this here is interesting. When will we receive that information? I am not sure, but there's more to this because a citizen's petition called for Dr. Kirkpatrick's immediate removal, hosted by change.org, has garnered 1,739 signatures since its posting on October 22nd, 2023. That was very recent. And to receive that many signatures goes to show that a lot of people were not happy with AARO being run under Kirkpatrick. I think that's a pretty good start. People care. People want the real news. People want to know what's up. Here's another image. Oh, just kidding. There's I think I showed that one already, of the AARO website. Will there be changes on the website once the seat is changed? I don't think so. It might. It needs to evolve anyway, but will it change just because of the new chief? I highly doubt it. I really do here. But here is my question for you. Considering the allegations of misinformation and the reluctance of whistleblowers to engage with the current leadership of the Pentagon's UFO investigation unit, what measures should be taken to ensure the study of UFOs is conducted with the highest degree of transparency and scientific rigor? And how can public trust in this process be restored and maintained? Please answer that question in the live chat. Please answer it in the comments as well. I do try to read all the comments, but here, this is a very valid question. How can public trust in this process be restored? And for some, how can it be maintained with all of these change of hands? And from the beginning, AARO didn't really seem promising. During that funding briefing earlier this year that was run by Representative Gillibrand, and this was back in April, she said, when will the website be launched? When will it be released? When will the public see it? And he says, it's under, we're still working on it. And it didn't come out until September. And people were asking, okay, what about the activity report? When can we fill those out? And he says, I don't know. And then it came out October 31st. Things are moving for AARO. They were moving very slowly. Now, well, I guess soon for 2024, will they be at a faster pace, or will there be a stronger steel hand on the next person that's going to be chairman, or the chief in this case, to where no information will come forward? Is it going to be harmful or beneficial to the public? Please answer those questions. But while you are answering those questions, and before we move on to our Next headline. I have an exclusive invite for you because if you're intrigued by the odd, the unexpected, and the downright strange with all these kinds of stories that ripple through our newsfeed, then make sure to hit that subscription button. We do 3 live shows right here every single week on YouTube. And for those of you who have been riding this roller coaster of the strange with us, do not forget to smash the like button and that bell icon below. You definitely do not want to miss the next wave of strange but true stories that we've got lined up for you every single week. And for my podcast listeners, take 5 seconds to write a review. I do aim for 5 stars, but your reviews really do help push these shows to more like-minded people. And that's what this is all about. That's what it's all about. Consciously says, trust in government is over. Hides, thank you for that. Congrats on the 55K. Thank you. It's so amazing to have created a community with so many like-minded members. I never saw it coming, but I'm so grateful for every single one of you that listen into the shows, that have subscribed, that listen to the podcasts, and that hit the like button. It means a lot to me. It really does. So thank you. Paul, thank you for that as well. Thank you for your comments and for hitting that like button. We're going to get into our next one because we're still in the conversation of UFOs. And this one, we have to thank Mr. Journalist Ross Coulthard. So I'm going to share merely a visual aid here as we get into our next one. I'm going to pull this up. There it is. Perfect. Because 3 days before a Chinese spy balloon appeared over the US, this is back in February, a UFO was seen over the Arctic Circle with fighter jets being sent to take the object down. And this was according to Ross Coulthard that he had told to News Nation. Exclusive reporting from this journalist. Specifically, an investigative journalist reporting for News Nation calls into question whether the country has been given the full story when it comes to a series of mysterious flying objects that captivated the nation back in February. 4 incidents were reported publicly, including one involving a giant Chinese spy balloon. But sources told News Nation that there was actually a 5th incident before all of the others. Americans were shocked when the Pentagon admitted a massive high-altitude Chinese surveillance balloon was able to enter U.S. airspace unhindered. And the balloon drifted across North America for several days before being shot down by U.S. fighters off the coast of South Carolina. When this news came out back in February, people were flabbergasted. They had no words, and many of them were shocked. We were given decent answers of them being shot down, that there were public images of military officials collecting the debris of these balloons. But then there were others that were a bit more secretive. A few other shoot downs that people didn't really have all of the details to them. They weren't able to connect all the dots. And that's when speculations grew. But 6 days later, it happened again on February 10th, 2023, around 1:45 p.m. ET. The first of 3 objects were shot down by U.S. fighters near the northern Alaska town of Deadhorse, and all 3 of the objects are still officially acknowledged as unexplained. And that, my dear friend, is saying something. Officials launched a massive air and ground search to find the objects, and within hours of shooting them down, White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby admitted they had no idea what the objects were. You can't say that. You can't say that on national TV. It causes panic. But in this case, when that happened, when that information was made public, people, they were a little nervous, but there was this level of excitement of, oh my gosh, it's UFO disclosure. We are getting disclosure right here, right now. Did we get that? No. No, we didn't. Maybe in a roundabout way, some people say And this changes from person to person, it differs. But some believe that disclosure is happening right in front of our eyes, right here, right now, with these kinds of conversations and what's been happening all throughout 2023. Could that have been a start of when you have the White House National Security Council spokesman say, yeah, these objects that were flying across the United States, we don't really know what they are. Is that disclosure? Could you say it is? Or just crazy nonsense? Maybe it's a little bit of both. But it says here, we're calling this an object because that's the best description we have right now. We do not know who owns it, whether it's state owned or corporate owned or privately owned, he said. We just don't know. And that's a quote from spokesman John Kirby. But the incursions kept happening. A second cylindrical object was shot down over Canada's Yukon the following day, February 11th. And then on the 12th, a third object was downed over Lake Huron near Michigan. And that object described as being octagon shaped in nature. Three sources told News Nation that there was an earlier publicly undisclosed incident over the Arctic Circle, February 1st, 2023, 3 days before the Chinese balloon was shot. Why is this important? Why is this relevant? First, think about it. Tell me in the live chat, tell me in the comments why you think it's important that we're covering this now. And I'm going to give you my feedback. And that is, we were told of 4 of them. And in many cases, vaguely. But for there to be another one and that information is coming out in November, smells like sewage. Seems a little sketchy, don't you think? The defense and intelligence sources said 8 or 9 unidentified aerial phenomena were detected over the Arctic Circle, and fighter jets were sent up in an unsuccessful attempt to intercept them. Jet fighters deployed from the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, to engage the object, sources said, but the UAPs were still maneuvering away at high speeds. Interesting. Former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Christopher Mellon independently confirmed the story, stating, I've heard the same thing from an individual who would have plausible reason to know. But this really speaks to a much larger issue, which is the lack of information from the Air Force about UAPs generally. Yes. First of all, he has a beautiful way with words. Second of all, I could not have said it better myself. Christopher Mellon knows what he's talking about. And that little sentence right there, it's enough to set alarms. It's enough for people to start asking questions and questioning everything, because this would be classified as a national security threat. Yes, it would. And yes, I understand a lot of people roll their eyes by that statement, but I've said this again, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, getting ahead of myself, as you can see. And that is, if it's not classified as a threat, the government would not place tax dollars on it. They wouldn't research it. They wouldn't look into it, because if it's not a threat, it's not worth their time. If everything was rainbow and unicorns, why would they worry, right? Why would they care? But when you place it in the category of a threat, that's when, again, alarms go off and people begin to take it a little bit more seriously. And I'm not saying that they are a threat or that they are not a threat, but when you place it in a specific category, people look at it a little bit more seriously. DJ, thank you for that. You rule. Been enjoying your show since I found it just a few weeks back. Thanks for joining the community. I'm so glad that you're enjoying these shows, and they're all live and a lot of fun. We get to chat back and forth, and that's the fun about these types of things, is that I'm able to hear your insights, and other people can as well. Steven says, I'm a little confused. If governments have tech that could take down UAPs, why send jets? They've been doing that since World War II with the Foo Fighters, but could it be that maybe the military does have some kind of technology to maybe potentially intercept them, but that information hasn't been made public? But people at the same time are going to try their luck. They're going to say, I'll give it a shot. What do I have to lose aside from my life, right? Which is the most valuable thing that anyone has, that anyone can own, is a life. But yeah, this is an interesting point to make, Stephen. It is. John says governments around the world have already come to the conclusion UFOs are not a threat. That might be the case, and I'm with you. We haven't really seen anything detrimental in many cases, not in all of them. There have been a handful of issues with people encountering UFOs, including the Havana syndrome, right? Radiation poisoning, some people getting terrorized by UFOs, alien abductions. Those are definitely threats. But in the aspect of the government potentially, allegedly having interactions with extraterrestrials, including the alleged Eisenhower Treaty, right? Yeah, there isn't that threat there. But for the general public and for the military, if there's not a threat, people aren't going to look into it and they're not going to care. So it's not about it actually being a threat or not. It's how it's being perceived and how the narrative can be woven and how they can receive more tax dollars, more funding in order to do research, right? Cassidy, thank you. As always, thank you so much. Yeah, Cindy says, yes, sketchy as hell not to reveal the incident. Oh, yeah. Yes. Well, this article continues and it says NORAD did say it had aircraft flying in the area, but that they were returned at home base as part of a training operation. Heard that with the Phoenix Lights, heard that with Kokomo that we spoke about yesterday, right? Where if there is a UFO sighting, people are going to say, and the military is going to say, oh, it was military training. Oh, it was us. Nothing to see here. It was just merely your common man. It's not always the case. But sources also told that the object the US shot down on February 10th was also anomalous. And there has been silence in the eight months since it was shot down. Though in February, the White House assured the public it was confident the Alaska object debris would be recovered. But we haven't heard anything about that, have we? So here's my question to you. How does the discrepancy between official statements and whistleblower accounts on UAP challenge our understanding of national security and secrecy? Please answer that question in the live chat in the comments as well. I will be asking questions for all of the articles that we cover so that we're able to take a moment to digest the information that we have just come across, to think about it, and then to ask just one thought-provoking question. Just one. Rome says, nothing weird here, guys, just Paul flying his UFO. At some point, that is probably going to be an explanation, which is so sad to say. But could that be our future? Yes, it could. XR says, move along, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. That's what they always do, don't they? Well, while you answer that question, we are getting into our next topic, and that is on ghosts, but very specifically England and ghosts. We're bringing England to this conversation, those across the pond. If you are from England or from the UK, hit that like button and say a little hello. Say hi. I'm from there, from across the pond, because this one's for you. Going to share my screen here because a fifth of Brits insist their house is haunted, while 1 in 20 believe there is a ghostly presence in their workplace, according to a new study. As many as 7 in 10, 69% of people admit they believe in ghosts, spirits, and apparitions and them being real and not just figments of our imagination. 4 in 10, 38%, are convinced they have seen something paranormal and that has unnerved them. But over half, 51%, insist the presence was friendly. It's a little bro saying, hey, buddy, how's it going? Just admiring your lawn. In fact, a fifth, 21% of respondents think a spirit resides in their home, with a further 15% saying they have woken in the middle of the night to see a ghostly figure sitting at the end of their bed And 1 in 10, or about 9%, feeling a sudden and unexpected chill. 10% of Brits believe a family member's house is haunted, with 1 in 20, about 6%, think a neighbor's house harbors a paranormal presence. Let's think about this just for a minute, okay? Because England, all of the UK, England, Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, okay, all of those countries, they're very old and they've had their fair share of war, death, tragedy, so on and so forth. You would expect it to be haunted, wouldn't you? And a lot of buildings in those places are very old. Yes, of course, you get brand new ones. Yeah, awesome. But it's also those new buildings are built on old land that have had their fair share of pretty intense misery and history, so on and so forth. So, could you expect places like this to be haunted? Sure, why not? But I like here that there was a study done asking a whole population on what they think about ghosts, and 1 in 5 believe in them. But here's what's crazy, okay? And I mentioned this earlier. I'm going to find that quote stating that 15% have stated that they have woken up with a ghost sitting on the other side of their bed. That's a little spooky, but let me tell you a personal story. Not really like my story, but my mom's story. And that was when she had just married my father, and they're divorced now, by the way, but when she had just married him and they were sleeping in the same bed, almost every single night she would wake up and there was an older gentleman staring at her. She never felt scared. She never felt threatened in any way, but almost every single night she'd wake up and just some old man was just looking dead at her. Get it? Because he's dead. And at one point, she was going through her then husband's family album and she finds someone. She says, "That's him. That's the one that stares at me every single night." And my dad looks over and he says, "That's my father. That's my dad that's visiting you every night." And my mother, again, she didn't feel fear, but in that instance she felt this level of relief, finally giving a face and a name and a relationship to that entity that was staring at her all of those nights prior. And here it's astonishing to hear that 15% of people in England are seeing and getting something, in a roundabout sense, something similar. Have you had an encounter like that? I've never had someone stare at me in the middle of the night that was a ghost that I know of, at least. But some people would freak out and others maybe wouldn't be so scared, especially if you are familiar with that face that's looking at you right now. If it was an unfamiliar face, that heart would be beating so quick, wouldn't it? Yes, it would. Chris says, and Chris is from the UK, by the way, and he says, "But we got taught as kids, leave them alone and they will leave you alone. So we just expected them." Accepted them. What did I say? Expected. Accepted them. That seems like with bees. That's the same kind of rule. If you don't play with bees and push them to the side, they're gonna leave you alone at some point. But when you start swatting them, you're gonna be all swollen up with all the little bee venom and stuff. Mm. That one's where it gets kind of freaky. Joe says, "They always just visit me in my dreams." There have been cases and there have been stories of people encountering deceased loved ones in their dreams. Funny enough, my mother is another example of this. And she had told me a story really not that long ago of one of her friends that had just recently passed away. And right when he had passed, he entered my mom's dreams and said, "Hey, I'm just letting you know I crossed over and I'm doing great." And she wakes up soon after. She makes a few phone calls and she ends up finding out that her friend had just passed away, but no one knew about it because that information wasn't made public except for the wife. So, yes, there have been stories like this. And It's just one of those things that make you question, is it just merely a dream? Is it just merely imagination? Or is there more to it? For people that have had deceased loved ones visit them, why is it in a dream state? Is it because they're more elusive and able to maybe experience more, or use less filters, like how you do in reality, of trying to rationalize things? Is that a reason? Is it because it's just easier to infiltrate dreams and attempt to like manifest yourself in reality? Why do you think that is? Please, for those that have had that encounter specifically of someone infiltrating your dreams that has passed away, in your opinion, from your own experience, why do you think that is? D says, I don't believe in coincidences. You and me both, buddy. Me neither. DJ says, my dad came home and told me he passed away, and I was like, wow. Dang. That's a funny one, Mike. I just want to make sure, I want to be very specific in what I say. Sparrow says, looks spooky. Can do. Can be. Dinner Bells says, awesome name, by the way, says, the nature of reality is far more intelligent than we give it credit for, i.e. matter behaving differently if it's being observed or not. I like where you're going with this, Dinner Bells. Plus, who doesn't love dinner? It's like the best sound when you hear it. And food's ready. Yes. And this article also gives you more stats on what they believe in when it comes to the paranormal. And as I had mentioned at the beginning of the show, those links to the articles will be in the description box below for you to look at as well, if you wish. You have that option. And I love giving you options. But here, more than 1 in 6, or 16%, brave Brits say they would go out and hunt for ghosts if there was paranormal activity in their town. But a tenth, 9%, admits they would leave the area, you know what I'm going to say, immediately. They're like, nope, cleaning my hands, running out the door, not even going to pack luggage. Just going to bring my credit card and run. Maybe some tennis shoes as well to run extra fast. But that one's funny, and it's valid. The unknown can scare a lot of people. That's why you don't walk in a dark alley. That's why if you see a hole in a tree, you don't put your hand in it, because you don't know what's going to bite you on the other side. Scorpions, spiders, ants, demons, I don't know. All of the above. All of them in one creature. That'd be really scary, actually. So that's why people are scared of the unknown. In this case, the paranormal, for many, is in the category of the unknown. They're like, no, I'm not feeling it. I'm not going for it. But here's my question for you. Listen closely and please answer it. And that is, given a significant portion of Brit reports experiencing ghostly encounters in their homes and workplace, what does this widespread belief in the paranormal say about the human need to connect with the unknown and the unseen? Because the majority, 1 in 5 Brits, believe in ghosts. A good majority of them think it's happening in their day-to-day life. There are ghosts in their neighbor's house, in their house, in the workplace, and they just go about their day. So, please answer that question. I will ask it one more time. And that is, given that a significant portion of Brit reports experiencing ghostly encounters in their homes and workplaces, what does this widespread belief in the paranormal say about the human need to connect with the unknown and the unseen? Please. XR says, yes, I'm scared for what they can do. Telekinesis, right? That's also kind of spooky, but also super amazing. When I watched, what's that movie? Now it sounds like an M. It's like, that's not Merida, but it's Meredith. Is that the one? I don't know. But where it was like this kid was able to do telekinesis. I still practice to this day. Can I move anything with my mind? No. I still can't. But you never know. Maybe one day you're just going to wake up with magical powers of telekinesis or mind reading. So you got to practice it just a little bit every day to do a little test, some Jedi mind tricks as well, right? And hope for the best that one day you'll just wake up magical. Someone's going to correct me on that movie. I know it's not Meredith, but it's something along those lines. Please tell me in the live chat. It's gonna bother me now because I can't remember what it's called. Tasaka. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for supporting the channel. Carrie movie? No, it's not that one. Bending Spoons, that'd be very cool. But someone please correct me on the movie, which one I'm talking about. Matilda! Nailed it. It's Matilda. Yes, Marissa. We said it at the exact same time. That's the movie that I was thinking about. Meredith is from Brave, which is also just another amazing one. Thanks, Android. You never know when you're going to get telekinetic powers. Gotta test it all the time. Or like, we know when you're super lazy as well, and you're sitting in bed and you say, okay, let's even get that glass of water from the counter or from the table, right? It never works. But maybe one day it will. Getting into our next one. This one is interesting, and I also have a video for you for this one. So I'm going to play it while I read it to you. And you can think if it's real or not. It's not for me to tell you. Please make up your own mind. Let me know in the live chat what you think about it. So I'm going to share this one. There is no audio, by the way. So we don't have to put up the volume too high for this one, but here it is. And that is a video has surfaced on the Australian section of TikTok depicting a boar being torn into two parts by a remarkably strong creature. And there it is right there. But next to the remains of the wild boar on the sand are large footprints that were discovered, resembling the footprints of a very large humanoid. And you're able to see the footprints here, but then a little bit later, you're able to see the person recording this comparing his foot with this large footprint to give a ratio of size. Reportedly, the video was filmed in the rural area of North Queensland, Australia, and a group of workers accidentally stumbled upon huge human footprints in the sandy soil, and they decided to follow them, eventually leading them to the discovery of the two halves of a deceased boar. The animal was not cut, but appeared to have been torn in half at the midsection. It's worth noting that there have been no known predators in Australia capable of such an act for quite some time, even while dingoes are incapable of this level of force. Journalists have learned that this video was filmed several years ago. I know it's a bit sad, but it gained a little attention at the time. However, it was recently uploaded to the internet, and in this case, it was published by Sasquatch Finds on TikTok. And once it was re-uploaded, that's when it started gaining a lot of traction. And it says here, it tore it in half and left this next to it. That's what the man in the video is saying, showing the remains of a boar and a huge print. And he placed his foot, like that's, his foot that's in a shoe, obviously, next to one print that is clear to be a print of what they think is a yowie, which is the Australian version of a Bigfoot, and it's about twice the size of this man's foot, which is crazy. And again, could this have been created? Could it have been a hoax? Sure, of course it could have been. People are mischievous and they like joking around, they like fooling people. But if this were real, that's be sending fear up and down people's spines, because to just rip a boar in half, like what we're seeing in this video, luckily there's no blood in this, it's frightening for a lot of people. So here's my question for you. Does this video of a boar torn in half by a mysterious creature in Australia make you more open to the possibility of cryptids like the Yowie, or do you lean towards more rational explanations of maybe it was a human, maybe it was a dingo, right? What do you think is going on here? Who do you think, or what do you think did this? Please tell me in the live chat, tell me in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. We ask a lot of thought-provoking questions, having a lot of conversations, and covering a ton of different topics. Hit that notification bell if you haven't already so you do not miss the 3 shows that we do every single week live right here on this channel. And of course, please like the video if you're enjoying it, and take 5 seconds to write a review if you're listening to this on a podcast. I do try to aim for 5 stars, but tell me your thoughts on what you think about this show and the channel as a whole. Paul Logan says, nah, pig was cut in half and placed there. It's a possibility. No one's really saying otherwise. Jessica says, yeah, where is all the blood? There would be a lot of blood everywhere if it was torn in half. That's a valid thing. We're not seeing any of that. And that's what's weird. And even if it was an old, like a boar that was sitting there or laying there for a long period of time, the ground would have been stained. Unless it rained maybe, but look how dry that place looks. Probably only rains not frequent enough to be able to wash down and wash away stained blood, right? Who says this? Ronald says Bigfoot could be an alien hybrid creation, a man and a bear. All the possibilities are truly on the table. All of them. Some knucklehead says no blood and why leave the animal? Cindy, bringing in the jokes, says why didn't the Bigfoot eat his lunch? Also a valid question though. Lunch and all meals of the day are the best meals of the day. Kim, bringing in the facts. If torn, it would have intestines. Steven says, yep, looks a little bit too clean. This is why we have these conversations, because you are seeing things that others don't, and you're asking the big, smart, big-brained questions here, and pointing out the obvious as well that not everyone is seeing. This is why we have these talks together. But Trucker says, same as a cow mutilation, no blood. Bringing them the cattle mutilation phenomenon here, because that's also a valid point. In many cattle mutilations, the majority of them really, there is no signs of blood whatsoever, but there are precise and pristine surgical removals of the eyes, of parts of the cheek, the tongue, the rectum as well. Could that be something similar? And here's another aspect, Trucker, and thank you again for bringing this up. And that is, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And that is that there have been cases and theories and people that have been doing the research when it comes to UFOs and Bigfoot, that there might be a correlation between the two. Are Bigfoot, in a sense, working with extraterrestrials? There have been abductee stories where people have seen Bigfoot in spacecraft. I know it sounds crazy for many people, and I get it. There's no evidence whatsoever. Of course, people can say whatever they want. I hear you. But if we just take that just for a moment and think about this and look at that video where you're seeing these huge footprints, potentially of a yowie, and then a boar just ripped in half but no blood, was there a partnership between this cattle mutilation, a boar mutilation, and Bigfoot? Was this level of let's work together and let's do this, whatever we have to do, right? I don't know. Maybe. But it's something worth thinking about, because there have been a handful of cases and reports and people that have said there is a connection between UFOs, extraterrestrials, and Bigfoot. But the question is, what is that connection? I'm not sure. I'm lost for words. I really am. Mark says, puts me to mind of the portals reported at Skinwalker Ranch. You said one of my all-time favorite words, portals. Is there a connection there? Can portals be brought up in this conversation? They can be brought up in any conversation. All the time. Portals are always appropriate. And anything that you talk about. This next one is about a spider. A spider that stop traffic. And I'm going to show you actually a cute spider, not the actual tarantula that was seen. Why? Because some people have arachnophobia. But just in general, the pictures of bugs, it makes people's skin crawl. So instead, I'm going to show you Lucas the spider. Like, this one's kind of cute. He's got big, adorable eyes. Is he still kind of spooky? Yes, but a lot less spooky than an actual spider. So, Swiss travelers braked suddenly to avoid hitting a tarantula crossing CA 190 east of Town Path in Death Valley National Park on the afternoon of October 28th. A 24-year-old Canadian man on a motorcycle then crashed into the back of a Swiss couple's rented camper van. Oh, my heart would have snapped in half. It really would have. A National Park Service NPS ambulance transported the motorcyclist to Desert View Hospital in that area, and then the spider walked away unscathed. It says here, please drive slowly, especially going down steep hills in the park. Our roads still have gravel patches due to flood damage, and wildlife of any size are out. And that was said by Superintendent Mike Reynolds, who was the first NPS employee on scene at the accident. Again, an NPS is a National Park Service. Excuse me. Tarantulas spend most of their lives living in underground burrows, and people see them most often in the fall, when 8 to 10-year-old male tarantulas leave their burrows to search for a mate. I did not know they lived that long. The female sometimes kills and eats him after mating, just like black widows and praying mantises. Truly, the animal kingdom is brutal. Like, who's gonna take care of the kids, right? All those little spider babies. Just the mom here. Even if she didn't eat the husband, the what is it? The man. The male tarantula rarely lives more than a few months after mating. However, female tarantulas can live. You're not going to believe this. Okay, before I even give you the answer, guess how long a female tarantula can live for. Just take a wild guess. I did not see this one coming. I'm not even going to tell you. I'm going to let you guess. How long do you think a female tarantula can live for? Don't look it up. Do not look it up. Just first thing that comes to mind. Dinner Bell says 50 years. 32 years says AI. 5 years says Cassidy. Oh, wait. 10 years says Ton K. 3 decades. Viper Pine. Jeez. No. 50 says Tyler. No. 10. Daniel won. He won today. It's 25 years. Excuse me. A female tarantula can live for 25 years, mating multiple times. For the male, they can only do it once, and if they're not eaten, they can live for about, at the most-ish, 10 years. That's brutal. The more you learn from these shows, this is a new fact for me. Tarantulas can live for a very long time. Here's my question for you, and I have several, but here's my first one. Have you ever visited one of those bug museums where you're able to just hold tarantulas in your hand? I've never held a tarantula in my hand, and I don't think I'd be able to. Can you imagine the amount of people that have potentially held it and then wanted just to smash it so quick or like drop it or something? Poor little dudes. That's terrible. But at the same time, that fear factor is strong in humans. But here's my legitimate question for you, and that is, how does the irony of a tarantula inadvertently causing a motorcycle crash play into our innate fears of spiders, despite their relatively harmless nature? Because tarantulas, they're pretty chill. While they're terrifying and huge and have 8 eyeballs and 8 legs and they're super furry, that would scare almost anybody. But compared to other spiders, they're like the big brother. They're the nice guy on the street. And yet, it caused a motorcycle accident. That's terrible. So please answer that question. Dragonheart bringing in the facts says some tarantulas have half-inch fangs. No, thank you. No. Stargazer says my tarantulas like to be held. That's nice, but not by me. No. WooTube says when you buy tarantulas as hatchlings, they're so cute, and then you get slowly used to them. Okay, starting out slow, starting out fresh. I can get that. But still, I don't get the hype. Android says, I would never hold a tarantula. You can't control if it bites. I'd hold a snake. Snakes aren't so bad. Some snakes are kind of spooky, but snakes in general, I feel like they're just a lot more chill, even though they are venomous and they could choke you and hurt you in every single way compared to spiders. In this case, tarantulas. There are some spiders that are very dangerous, like brown recluses, sometimes wolf spiders, black widows, right? I would never want to cross paths with one of those. Bit says, don't like insects. That's why I'm showing you a cute picture of a spider, or the cutest one I could find at the very least, of Lucas the spider, instead of the actual image, because that's spooky. But I have one more for you, and this one, I'm saving the craziest, weirdest, strangest, most bizarre one for last. Oh yes, I'm bringing in the goods this week, because this one, I'm going to make it short. Why? Because it's going to turn off a lot of people. So if you're eating or drinking, push it to the side just for about 2 minutes. Please, I do not want to disrupt your appetite. But it wouldn't be strange news without covering this. It really wouldn't. So I'll make this one short and sweet. And that is of a zombie mushroom. Okay, here is that image of a mushroom that someone grew in their house. But here's the crazy thing about this mushroom is that it was grown with dead skin cells, human skin cells, and blood. Okay, you saw the image. Now we're gonna, what the heck? Now we're gonna put it back to a cute image of a mushroom forest that's very mystical and cool and makes you want to go hiking. I feel like that's very appropriate. But I don't know why it didn't work. So we're gonna pull it up again. Of like happy mushrooms, okay? Because cordyceps, a fungus with a history stretching back over 1500 years in Chinese medicine, and a recent feature in HBO's The Last of Us, has taken a bizarre turn in the world of social media because a TikTok user known as Southern Spore has experimented with growing cordyceps using his own blood and skin as a nutrient source. And this self-styled zombie mushroom cultivation has caught the attention of viewers at Hood showcase the process from the growth of the fungus's weirdness on his dead skin to even do a taste test on the mushroom. And he said that it tastes oddly sweet. So people in the comments were stating, you're absolutely crazy, you're going to infect humanity, this is dangerous, this is disgusting, how could you do something like this? And he says, everything is a-okay. This has been practiced for a long time. Next time I will use animal skin and blood instead of my own, but it was a great experiment. I don't want to get too deep into this because it's just so gross on so many levels, but you can find that link in the description box below, and that link will also give you the video. It's embedded in the article for you to hear it from him, Southern Spore. But I just wanted to touch on it because it's so freaky. But here's my question for you. How does the idea of consuming a fungus that thrives on the dead challenge our notion of life, death, and sustenance? First of all, mushrooms, they always thrive on the dead. They thrive on old tree trunks and on the ground that's molding. That's how nature works. It flourishes in the most bizarre ways. But when you start dealing with meaty matter, I think is the best way I could say it. Not just organic matter, but meaty matter. That's where it gets a little testy for people, especially when you're dealing with human stuff, human skin, human blood, human matter, right? That's where it gets real freaky. That's when people cross that line with a black Sharpie, making that line super thick, and it says, "You shall not pass." So, how does the idea of consuming a fungus that thrives on the dead challenge our notion of life, death, and sustenance? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the comments. But what a way to end today's show on a really strange, gross note on so many levels. So much so that I thought to myself, maybe I shouldn't cover all of this because it's going to bother a handful of people, low key myself included. But if you enjoyed the show, subscribe, hit that little like button down below, along with the notification bell so you do not miss any of the shows that we do right here. Follow me on Twitter, aka the X, at eyes_on_the_skies for all of my updates and news, along with my Instagram at Strange Paradigms for short videos and photos. If you want to continue this conversation, bring it over to the Discord server with 2,700 other like-minded members. Share your thoughts, your insights, your experiences, and more. I know one of my amazing moderators will share that link in the live chat. If you are enjoying everything that you're seeing on the channel, consider being a Patreon supporter, where all the funding goes straight to the channel, to Puck the Puckwudgie, and to the RV Fund, where I'll be traveling the United States, hitting all the UFO and paranormal hotspots, documenting it, and taking you on the journey with me. That is it for today. I will see you next time. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.